Ronald Mortensen is now here. He's a former Assistant Secretary of State for the Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration, and he's a Center for Immigration Studies fellow. Sir, good to have you with us.
Glad to be with you.
Hey, just on your title, former Assistant Secretary of State for the Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration, tell me about that bureau. What does that bureau do for the State Department?
Well, first of all, I was nominated to fill that position, and I was never confirmed for the Senate by the Senate, even though the president sent it over 3 times. PRM, it sets United States government foreign policy on migration, but it also provides lots of humanitarian assistance, primarily through the United Nations UNHCR. And so it has a humanitarian element to it, and it has a policy element to it.
You know, I looked at their website. I looked at their website to kind of assess like how they describe their own mission. And under Biden, the Population, Refugees, and Migration Bureau said it, quote, promotes U.S. interests by providing protection, easing suffering, and resolving the plight of persecuted and forcibly displaced people around the world. And now the Trump version of that website says PRM promotes U.S. interests by working to reduce illegal migration, to provide humanitarian assistance to those fleeing persecution, yada, yada, yada. So they focus first and foremost on we have to stop illegal migration to the country. So is that a new mission for this organization, or is that like a uniquely Trump mission, or is that what it's supposed to be doing in general?
Well, I think that's what it should have been doing in general. It fluctuates back and forth between administrations and following the policy. And of course, during the Biden administration, encouraging migration all over the world was a key thing.
Yeah, it sure was. Okay, so you write today for the Center for Immigration Studies, this past week, in fact, how we could actually expedite deportations using the power of DOGE, which Elon Musk and the crew are running right now. How can we do that? What would it take?
Well, it would take a combination of DOGE helping SSA to do what they're supposed to be doing, quite frankly. Because what happens when somebody enters the United States illegally, the first thing they do, one of the very first things they do is they buy a packet of fraudulent documents. And that always includes a social security number so they can get a job. It includes probably a driver's license, and it includes something like a green card or some kind of immigration card that gives them status in the United States. So they immediately get these false documents. And that's forgery, which is a felony, by the way. And then when they use those documents, they take them into an employer who fills out an I-9 form. Now, if they work off the books, they don't need that, of course. But if they take them into an employer who fills out the I-9 form, the employer takes those documents, the employee or the illegal immigrant presenting them signs the I-9 form saying under penalty of perjury, everything on this is true. So that's another felony they've committed. And then if that social security number that they happen to be using belongs to an American citizen, that's another felony of identity theft in most states. Under the federal law, they can get away with it by saying that they didn't know it belonged to somebody. But in Utah, where I am, that doesn't work because it says whether you can't argue you didn't know it belonged to somebody if you're using it. That's identity theft. Mm-hmm. So what happens they can do is if Social Security they know multiple people are using the same Social Security number, but they don't do anything about it usually. So one thing DOGE can do, if they go in and they pull all of the numbers that have multiple people using them. Now, and DOGE doesn't need to take the information out. They don't need to even know who the number belongs to necessarily. But if they can identify where there's multiple people using a number, Social Security can identify who that was originally issued to, and they can also identify then who's fraudulently using that. Now, if they would take that and take that information and send it to the Department of Justice, to state attorney generals, and to the Department of Homeland Security, then people could start going after the perpetrators of these crimes and protecting American citizens rather than doing what Social Security does now is protect the criminals and at the expense of the American citizen.
So Ronald Mortensen, you think that it'd be really obvious if we were to get under the hood of the Social Security Administration, if DOGE gets under the hood, they can see that multiple people are using the same Social Security number pretty easily, you think?
Yeah, if you pull out the numbers and there's number X has 4 different people's names associated with it, you can quickly see something going on.
Right.
In fact, even in Utah, what we did was we had our Department of Workforce Services ran the Social Security numbers of kids on public assistance against the wage base, and we found out 222 kids between 0 and 12 had their Social Security numbers being used by employment purposes. And
yes.
then when they ran all of the Social Security numbers in the wage database, just ran the numbers, and they found out that 8,000 numbers had 3 or more people using them.
Yeah, it's funny. I sometimes to the extent the left talks about this at all, sometimes I hear them say things like, "Well, the people who steal Social Security numbers, they don't get to take Social Security checks, so they're actually helping make Social Security solvent. They're paying into Social Security. So why are you complaining? This fraud is helpful to the American people, Ronald."
Well, in a case that is true, because if the number doesn't match, the money that Social Security gets, they put into a suspense account, and it sits there, and there's over $1 billion in that account, actually. So it does help in that case. The problem is if that Social Security number belongs to you
yes.
or to your child, everything the illegal immigrant does on that number is getting attached to it. So if they have bad credit, that goes against you. And worse is that when they use the children's numbers, nobody's checking their credit. At least you have a chance to fight back. But so the child has bad credit. If they get arrested, they have an arrest record. And if they might go get medical services, you can corrupt the medical records. When they go in for means-tested benefits like Medicaid, if somebody's earning income on their number, that they might be earning too much money to even get Medicaid, even though they're 5 years old.
Smart.
So they always look at it doesn't hurt, but it does hurt because this is a crime with very real victims.
Yes, so you have to own the behavior of every person who's stolen your identity going forward. So if you're subjected to a background check at some point in your career, you're going to have a lot of trouble explaining why it is that you've got this huge history that you weren't even aware of.
Absolutely. There's one story of a young woman. She went through law school, passed the bar, and when they did the background check on her, they denied her law license in the state because she had criminal records.
Wow.
So and that's what people will not look at. They will not look at the victims on the other end of this. So Social Security and DOGE working together,
yes,
they can identify the numbers that are being used, and ideally Social Security, they would then, like I say, turn it over. They would also identify the employers, so they now know who's paying wages these Social Security numbers, and they could tie in with IRS and look at that. And so there's a series of things that flow down from this. They could also notify every American citizen who has more than one person using their number that they're a victim of identity theft, and give them the documents they can file to at least file a case on that and get it on the record. So there's lots of things they can do.
Yeah. No, well, this also seems like a situation that is specifically built for Elon Musk's skill set, which is to take big tranches of data, to use an algorithm to sort through them, to dedupe them, to figure out how many people are using duplicate versions of the same exact Social Security number, and then to drill down and quickly and efficiently figure out, okay, who's stealing this identity and what employer might be breaking the law by hiring someone who's illegal here. Elon Musk and his team of computer nerds really are built to kind of tackle a problem like this, aren't they?
They definitely are. And working together, Social Security's got to have a record who that number is issued to. So once you have the multiple people, they can quickly see who the owner is and who the perpetrators are, and work from there. And like I say, farm that information out to DOJ, farm it out to DHS, and farm it out to state attorney generals.
Yeah, amazing. Well, fantastic idea. Not surprised coming from the Center for Immigration Studies. Ronald Mortensen, really appreciate your time today and telling us that it is possible for DOGE not only to cut lots of spending, but also to help accelerate these deportations. Really exciting, and you can read more about this this week. Ronald Mortensen writing for the Center for Immigration Studies, how Social Security and DOGE can help expedite that is deportations. Ronald, thank you.